Our mission here on the Veterans Voice podcast is to remind you all that you're not alone. As you hear through the stories of our guests each and every week, we have all struggled, we have all turned to poor outlets to cope with life, and we have all felt alone at times. But these are the reasons we need to all be there for one another within the veteran community. A community whose voice is needed in America more than ever. This is the Veterans Voice podcast, and this is a reminder that you're not alone. This week on the show, we are proud to host Mrs. Colorado USA 2024. Cathy Howell has earned her title by being a dedicated supporter of our military community for over 30 years. Cathy's platform, Operation Leave No Military Behind, is her way of ensuring that no military member or their families are ever forgotten. Having deployed herself to Bagram, Afghanistan, Cathy understands the struggles we've been through and has dedicated her life to supporting those who have served. We hope you enjoy the episode.
USAA is proudly celebrating 100 years of serving the military community. It was a group of soldiers who launched USAA in 1922 by joining together to insure each other's vehicles when no one else would. Since then, USAA has grown to more than 13 million members strong. And through it all, one thing has remained. USAA is still serving the military community and their families. Find out more at usaa.com/100.
Cathy, an amazing resume. You've been around the world working for the government, Mrs. USA, Daily Point of Light awardee. Very impressive. And it's all for the work you do for veterans around the world. And I think it's absolutely amazing. Tell us a little bit about your life. How'd you get started with this?
The first pageant I was in, I was a year old. My mother put me in a pageant. I won. And then I didn't do any more until after high school, and I was in the Mrs. Colorado pageant and married a service member. And immediately I just felt a connection to take care of the military spouses, because being a military spouse is really difficult. And I did that for many, many years. And then I decided I really wanted to start working with the soldiers more. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out how I could do that at the time. And I was in a career field that I was getting pretty burnt out on, and I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And
meaningful.
Yeah. And we were in Germany when 9/11 happened. And as soon as it happened, I said, this is what I want to do. But I didn't know how to do it at the time because there was no schools or anything like that at the time. So I got back to the States, and I found out President Bush had started Homeland Security. So I got a degree in that, and I said, but I want more. There's something that I have to do more for the soldiers. That's not enough. So one of my, the anti-terrorism officer in Fort Carson at the time said, would you like to take the anti-terrorism class? I said, yes. I took the class, but it wasn't enough. I said, there's got to be more. Yeah. And so he said, there's a school that you can take called Henley Putnam University. It's an Intel school. And I did that, and I got a degree in terrorism and counterterrorism studies. And then I said, what is a really good way for me to be able to share this with a lot of people? Because what I've noticed is if the social media doesn't talk about us unless there's a war going on. So how can I share this with folks and remind them how important our military and their families are? And I said, you know what? Pageants, what a great way to be able to voice my platform, which is Operation Leave No Military Behind. Mm-hmm. So I started competing in pageants again, did the Mrs. Colorado pageant. I was title holder of the year. And I said, but I really want to go out of Colorado. So I went to Virginia and competed in the All-American pageant and won All-American International Queen, same platform. And then I came back here and I said, I want to get it out to a larger audience. So now I'm competing in the Mrs. USA pageant. But for me, I do this because I don't want our military and their family members forgotten. Mm-hmm. You guys should be recognized every day, not just on certain holidays. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I get a little emotional. So it's an honor for me to be able to go around and talk with folks and remind them that we have troops deployed right now. Mm-hmm. and the resources that they need. They still need those care packages. They still need those letters, but the families left behind still need that care too.
Absolutely.
So I talk to organizations on how they can help the spouses, and I run into a lot of people that ask me, well, how can I help? What resources can I use? And I just start, USO, American Legion, Mount Carmel, all those places that they can go to talk to our military. But once I got my degree in terrorism and counterterrorism study, I volunteered to go to Afghanistan for a year. Because how can I go to organizations and talk about what our soldiers go through if I hadn't experienced that on my own? So I volunteered and I served a year in Afghanistan doing force protection. So now when I come back, I see it as a spouse and I see it as a government employee. And I'm able to share that with people, and it kind of brings it home on how important it is what you guys do over there.
It's amazing that your love for this and your love for helping out soldiers, through your husband and through your pageants. But you actually wanted to do it, just so you know what it felt like. You wanted to go to Afghanistan because you told me, we were talking before, you had choice to go to Qatar, Kuwait, a lot safer places.
I did.
But you wanted to be in the junk. You wanted to live the life like a soldier, and that's just incredibly commendable to me because
thank you.
You didn't have to do that, but now you've opened your eyes to this whole new world of. I mean, I spent 2 years of my life in Afghanistan, and I loved it. It was absolutely amazing, but man, it wasn't all fun and games. It was, rough food, eating MREs sometimes for months on end, and so yeah, like I said, you putting yourself out there and doing that is pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. It's the hardest thing I think I've ever done. I lived in a Connex for a year. Never want to live in a Connex again. Porta potties, I'll never use one again. Worse food. I got very sick over there, but it was such an honor to serve with America's Finest.
Yeah.
Because to see what you guys go through and how hard it is there, because we did lose soldiers while we were there, and that was very hard. I did go outside of the base. I carried a 9mm. And like I said, if Afghanistan was open, I would volunteer to go back in a heartbeat because the mission is so important. Yeah. And that's what I tried to still continue to let folks know about. Our mission hasn't stopped. We have soldiers deployed right now from Carson. Mm-hmm. They need to remember these folks, the family members here. It is so hard to be a spouse. And so it's such an honor for me that I'm able to be in a pageant where my pageant, the Mrs. USA pageant, it's such an honor that they chose me to represent Colorado and be able to share my platform with everyone. Because being able to go out and tell people, this is the conditions that they live in over there. And they're like, no way. They're not in a hotel. No, they're not.
My big joke when I came back my first time, I was there for a year. So there was 3 toilets for 5 rows of houses. And I was like, I just want to go to the bathroom on a cold toilet seat. I don't want it to be warm anymore.
It was very hard for me the first time I got there, and the Afghan drivers stood on the toilet seats and made a mess. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And I actually had DPW come out and put a lock on it so everybody couldn't use that particular one. And every time I see one now, I will hold it till we get somewhere else. I don't ever want to use those again.
Oh, that's funny.
I've spent a lot of my life in porta potties.
But I've looked at going to other places again. There's a couple of places I could be going, and I think about it. Mm-hmm. But right now, my focus is on sharing about you guys and what you do over there, because those folks who've never been around the military, and there's a lot of small towns in America that have no military affiliation. Yeah. And when I talk with them, they're in awe. They're like, oh my gosh, they did that? Mm-hmm. That's how they lived? Yeah. And so it's such an honor for me to be able and go out and just talk about you guys and what you guys do, because not everybody understands.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the pageants. You got 2 former Green Berets in here. It's not really on our radar. You see Miss USA on the TV, and is there any difference? Is it so? How is it that you got involved in this? What is it that you do with it? And then and then explain like how you use that platform, which you kind of pretty much told us, but.
Like I said, I got back into pageantry as a way to support our military. So there's many different pageants, and a lot of people get confused on them. A lot of people don't understand pageants, so thank you for asking. A lot of people think if you're in a pageant, you should be 18 years old and size 2.
Yeah.
Well, that's not exactly true. I mean, there are pageants like that, but for the misses, which I can always compete in the misses category, these are women who support their community. And how do you support your community? Like Mount Carmel is one of my big sponsors. Mount Carmel has been sponsoring me for years.
Awesome.
So I'm able to go out and share about Mount Carmel and what they do with others. But for my pageant, there's not an age limit. There's not really a size limit. They want you to look nice, but it's all about integrity and what you're doing in your community.
Gotcha.
And so for me, we go to the pageant, we compete. We're judged on evening gown, how we look in our gown, our interview, and what we're doing in our community is a big one. So my platform, I have been told by many different directors in the past that I have a very honoring platform because mine's unique. Mine's different than a lot of the other pageant ladies. And I'm very honored because it's very true to my heart. And I do a lot of things here in the community. This past weekend, I was out at Phil Longford doing some things with them. I do a lot for Mount Carmel. I was just recognized, or there was a gentleman there that's with Honor Bell. Are you familiar with them?
Very much.
He just asked me, he said, I would love to work with you. And I was like, oh, that's great. I've worked with Healing Warriors, who works a lot with the suicides. So the pageant is about supporting your community in what you find important in your community. Colorado Springs, I'm from here. Colorado Springs is a huge military town. So I've always been part of the military. My dad was in the Army. So for me, just showing the pageant that here's a lady who loves what she does and she would like to continue supporting it. If I should win, I'll have Mrs. USA and I'll have that title for a year, which will allow me to go all over and talk about the pageant as well and my platform.
Wow, that's awesome. And just as a show, like Mount Carmel's, the resources here sometimes just seem endless, to be able to actually help you and, a military spouse and providing the platform you're providing with the sponsorship. And that's really cool.
And I have sponsors. I have Goosebumps Cryotherapy.
Okay.
They sponsor me. Harmony Anesthetics, they sponsor me. I have some of the coworkers I work on Fort Carson with at the garrison. They've been going out of their way to help me prepare for the pageant, and of course my husband. Yeah. He's a big part of that as well.
And he's retired now too, correct?
He retired in 2019. He did 28 years in the Army.
Wow.
He was an Apache helicopter pilot. So
is he a warrant officer?
He was.
So was I.
Yep.
No warrants.
And he will tell you right off the bat. There's an old joke. How do you know if a pilot enters a room? They'll tell you.
Yeah. We say that about the SEALs. How do you know you met a Navy SEAL? It's the first thing they said. But the pilots have that. Pilots have that arrogance too.
Oh, especially the Apache guys. They
Yes.
very much do. But he's been a big help in going out, and he shares. I have social media site for Facebook and Instagram. It's Mrs. Colorado USA 2024, and the other one, I'm not sure which one's which. The other one is Mrs. Colorado 2024. So I have social media. You guys can follow me on that.
Awesome.
And he as well puts everything out as well to show the support, and he shows it to all of his friends, and he has retired friends all over the country as well that support this because of my platform.
That's cool.
Like I said, this isn't about me. This is about you guys.
Yeah. We can never get enough help. There's always going to be someone, unfortunately we can't help everybody, but as long as we sit here and we talk about it and we're honest about it and we tell our stories, even the bad ones, that's how we save lives. We can sit here all day and just put out resources, but we can't connect with a crowd, with soldiers, with veterans, unless we're bringing up the hard conversations. And that's what, putting yourself into the community and learning about it as much as you have really means a lot to us, because one, you put yourself out there, but two, you know, and so you're able to intelligently speak about it. And then, once you're intelligently speaking about it, you can have these conversations. And then the people that, non-veterans are starting to learn, and it's that snowball effect. It's just getting bigger and bigger. So
Can I share a story with you?
please do.
A few years ago, when I was competing in the Miss Colorado pageant, my sash actually said Mrs. Fort Carson. And we went up to the Veterans Building Hospital up in Denver, and we're walking around. And they asked me, I had really never met anybody from the Vietnam War, and my heart's always gone out to them for the way they were treated.
Absolutely.
So they asked me, they said, who would you like to speak to? And I said, your most severely disabled Vietnam veterans. I said, I've never met any, and I'd really like to meet those. So we were walking around, and the whole hospital is just like, woo, Mrs. Fort Carson, thank you for representing. And I met a lot of people, but there's always one. I met this one gentleman, and I'm sorry if I get emotional for this, but never going to forget this one guy. He was on a ship in the Navy, and he lost both of his legs and his fingers on his right hand.
Wow.
And we talked a long time, and we talked about me, my platform, my husband, what he did. And when I got ready to leave, he took my hand with his good hand, and he said, thank you for never letting him forget about us. And that's why I do this.
Yeah.
It really is, because people like him are so appreciative that what they went through, they're still remembered. And I don't want anybody to forget about those guys. They went through a lot. I think they've had it harder than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And God bless our Vietnam veterans, but anytime I can work with those kind of guys and get the community to remember those guys and help them, it's such an honor for me. But that's the one gentleman I'll never forget.
Yeah, Cathy, we've had a lot of Vietnam veterans on the show, and I'd say the majority of our local listeners are Vietnam veterans. A lot of like Woodland Park area Vietnam veterans, so they're going to hear this and they're going to appreciate your words. So,
Oh, well, thank you.
Absolutely. And back then, let alone how they were treated, the resources weren't even there. And they weren't even in the resources that were there. They weren't told about them, or they were meant to felt shame for utilizing them. I mean, one of my best friend's dads, he lied and went to Vietnam, I think at 16 years old, and spent two or three years there. Just finally, about 10 years ago, I finally talked him into, halfway through my military career, was able to talk him into go, hey, you need to go to the VA. He goes there, and they diagnose him Agent Orange, everything. I mean, just the whole gamut. He's like, wow, I should have done this 50 years ago. And so that's, like you said, we're super appreciative of Vietnam era listeners, but they're starting to listen because they're starting to see these resources, and then they're spreading the word.
I had the honor of talking to a gentleman in the pharmacy at Fort Carson. I went over and told him thank you for his service because I noticed he had a Vietnam hat on. And we got to talking, and he told me, he says, I just don't understand why there's still nothing for us. And I said, sir, there is. Mm-hmm. And I told him about Mount Carmel and all the resources out there, and he took down a bunch of numbers, wrote down things. But here, this gentleman still, he said, I need to talk to someone. He said, I still have anger issues over what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I referred him out to several different organizations, but it broke my heart that he didn't even know that there were resources out there for him today. Mm-hmm. And people have to know those resources are out there for our soldiers. Yeah. When we see the young soldiers that are taking their lives, they have to know that there are safe places they can go and talk to where it's not going to come back on their careers or their families. We have to be there for those folks too. We have to be there for everyone, whether they're active duty or a veteran, a family member. We have to be there for everyone. And we have to let them know all these resources are out there.
Yes, that's our goal for this show. We kind of switch our mission to just, you're not alone. Everybody that's out there. I don't care if you got kicked out of the military. I don't care if you spent 6 months and got med boarded. I don't care if you spent 36 years. These doors are open. If you made that conscious decision to sign that dotted line in any branch of service, under any circumstances, these doors are open for you, and there is endless resources. And this is an organization that gets to yes. So come in here with a unique problem. Please do. I guarantee we can find an answer, you know?
And is that that's for the military spouses as well?
Absolutely.
Because I've had spouses that were military family members, and whether their husband committed suicide or they lost him during a war on terror, and those spouses don't know that those resources are available to them. So thank you for doing that for them.
Yeah, please walk through these doors. I mean, there's money out there for you. If everybody out there said, well, someone deserves it more than me, then we wouldn't have anybody to give these resources to. There's people that worked really, really hard to stand this place up and get these different positions and different resources together in here. So we need people to give them to. And the more people that come in here, the more we learn and the more resources we can add. It's always a learning game and always moving forward. The old cliche, always fixing your foxhole, right? Always improving your foxhole. So please come in and listen. Colorado Computer Support. Imagine never having to worry about your information systems ever again. Colorado Computer Support, the exclusive Veterans Voice technology partner meeting all of our computing needs. Colorado Computer Support is veteran-owned. They're your team for innovative, collaborative IT services and solutions to enhance and support your Colorado business. When you need IT services to keep your business going, make sure the Colorado Computer Support team is on your team. Call 719-355-2440. To learn more, that's 719-355-2440.
The Veterans Voice is sponsored in part by Optum and is produced in the Optum Podcast Studio. Optum and Mountain View Medical Group offer 15 clinics throughout the Pikes Peak region. Their primary and specialty care doctors provide quality, patient-centered care backed by Optum's industry-leading health services and technology. They're dedicated to helping our community live healthier while keeping care affordable. Visit optum.com/Colorado to learn more and schedule your appointment today. Tell us a little bit more about your platform, Operation Leave No Military Behind. How did that start? Where is it at now? And where do you see it going in the future?
It started because I had to come up with a platform that had to do with what I felt was what I wanted to do in the community and what I felt was important. And being deployed and being a military spouse, it seems like everything starts with operation. If you're going to take it serious, it starts with operation. So I was sitting there one day and we were talking, and someone said, well, what about Operation Leave No Military Behind? I said, that's awesome. That is perfect for me. That's exactly what I want to do. And for me, Operation Leave No Military Behind, it's to ensure our military and their spouses are never forgotten for the sacrifices they make every day, because it's every day. And where do I see myself in 10 years, 5 years? That's a good question, because that's one of the questions that my panel's going to ask me when I go to this pageant. And I've actually sit here and thought about that for a long time. That's a tough one, because you don't even know if you're going to be here tomorrow.
Right.
If God willing, and I'm still here in 5 to 10 years, I hope I'm still doing what I'm doing now. Is advocating for our military and their spouses and finding resources and making sure that they're taken care of every day. Because for me, there's two people that give us our freedom and allow us to do what we do. That's God and the military. And I don't want anybody to forget that. To be able just to go outside and drive the car of your choice. There was a soldier who gave his life so you can do that.
Right.
And that's what I want people to remember.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's very admirable. And then the other question we had, because you have that, but the Daily Point of Light Award, you were awarded that this year, correct?
I was.
What's that? I guess I can make it as simple as possible. Yeah. Tell us about that.
The Daily Point of Light is a very big volunteer award that was given out by George H.W. Bush, I believe, is senior.
Senior, yeah.
And he started this to recognize people who do amazing volunteer work in their community. And one of my pageant sisters actually put me in for this award. She had put in a lot of people here in Colorado Springs, and I was actually selected to get the award. And what it does is it goes around and it tells people all over the community that this is someone in your community who wants to help and do things outstanding and help those who need it in the area. And for me, it just happens to be the military. But it goes out to, they have a podcast and things that it's shared as well, all over the place. And then they have all kinds of dinners and banquets that I could go to Dallas for and meet President Bush and some other dignitaries there. But doing this pageant, changing lanes here for a minute, I've had the honor of meeting some very important dignitaries in representing the pageant. I've met Rob O'Neill, who said he killed Osama bin Laden. I have met Mark Gost, the Benghazi survivor. I've just had the honor of meeting folks like that who've gone out and done so much to help us. And if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I wouldn't be able to meet those folks and hear their story and hear what they've done. And it's a big deal. Mark Gost, when I met him, he was the first time he was actually talking publicly about what happened in Benghazi. And boy, was that moving. I've read the book, I've seen the movie, but to hear him talk about it from the day he got there till the day it ended, that was more than humbling and so overwhelming to hear what he actually went through. And my heart goes out to him and everything that he and his co-workers and his friends that died over there and those that have come back. And they never got recognized for that.
No.
And that breaks my heart.
That got shoved under the rug real quick.
Yeah.
It did. And I said to him, and I'm not sure you can take this out. You don't need to leave this in here. But I said to him, I am so sorry for what America did to you and the current administration. Yeah. And his response to me was, I forgave Hillary Clinton for what she did. And I looked at him and he said, if that had not happened, people really wouldn't know the type of person that she was. So it happened for a reason.
Yeah. Wow.
And that to me says a lot, that the type of person that he was over there. And it was such an honor for me to meet him. And like I said, he goes to a lot of gun shows. He talks about it more now. But I got to hear him the first time he spoke about it. And it was hard. It was hard for him to talk about it. Sure. It really was. Especially his best friend died over there. So that was really hard. And to hear him talk about that, now he has a service support animal that's with him at all times. And if you'll remember, he's the one whose arm got shot up pretty bad and was just hanging there. And it was 13 or more surgeries, I believe he told me he had on his arm. And he said he can't use it. He kind of just keeps it up here. But he said, I'm still glad I have it. And he said he thinks about it, all the time. But for me, someone like me, just a government employee, just a military spouse, to be able to be in the presence of him.
Yeah.
It's pretty humbling.
That's a really cool perspective because special operations guys like us, we hold resentment towards that situation.
Yeah.
And to hear that he said that, that's very humble for him to say because he had to forgive her. He had to see it in a different light that exposed what really happened because people need to know. There's so many things that have happened over in that sector of the world with special operations that no one knows about. So it's really cool that he came clean about that and was able to slick with it at night.
Yeah, just forgive. I mean, I have a lot of friends that, have a lot of issues and deal with a lot of pain and a lot of isolation and a lot of substance abuse because they are having such a hard time forgiving, forgiving themselves, forgiving their command, forgiving the government, forgiving situations, so that's pretty amazing that you got to have that conversation with him about it too. It was kind of cool.
It was because I had a lot of ill feelings at that point, and being a government employee, I was extremely angry like you guys were. And when he told me he forgave her, when my husband and I walked away, I said, I'm not sure I could have.
I don't know.
That took a really big person to be able to do that. Yeah. And you have to learn to forgive. And going back to just what you guys go through again, when I was at Fort Campbell, love the 101st. Kudos for those guys, love them. But the first time I saw a a triple amputee. There was a captain who had come back, and this was the beginning of the war. He had lost both legs and an arm, and he had come in to see the garrison commander to ask a waiver to go back because he felt bad leaving his troops there. Those are things that I share with others because they don't get it. They don't see that you guys go through that and how hard it is for you guys to walk away from that situation. That remorse is so hard for you guys. Yeah. And so for me to be able to just let folks know, no, you have to understand this is what these guys do. This is what they have to live with day to day.
They love.
It's just
a lot of times.
It's just an honor for me to be able to do that and share your guys' story. So thank you guys very much for what you have done.
Well, thank you.
The Veterans Voice podcast is supported by Medicare Mentors. When it's time to consider your Medicare options, it's time to talk with Medicare Mentors. Medicare Mentors, powered by Spark, is veteran-owned and a long-standing partner with Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center. More than that, they go above and beyond to make sure when you need them, they're there lending a helping hand. Medicare Mentors, always above and beyond. Visit MedicareMentorsLLC.com for more information.
You know, we were at war for 22 years, especially in the special operations community, in the combat arms community. That was our stress relief going back to war. You know, that was what we wanted to do. We were trained very well, and we wanted to use it. We didn't want to sit here and play G.I. Joe fake army. We wanted to go get it on, basically, you know?
Yeah.
And now that we don't have that outlet, we don't have battle, war, and gunfights, like, people have to deal with real stuff now, right? Because we can't just bury it away in the training for the next event. Now we're here, we're in garrison. Yeah, we do these trips to to Eastern Europe. I mean, Green Berets deploy all the time, but it's not like it was. It's not combat. It's really, really hard for these guys to swallow that, because a lot of the guys want to go back and be where they lost their best friends to.
I recently saw a sign that said, "They come back from war, but the war did not leave them." And that's so true, especially if you've lost someone over there. And a lot of people don't understand that you may have come back from that situation, but it's still up in your mind, and you have to deal with that on a daily basis. And a lot of people, it's really hard because they don't know how to handle that. That's something we're not always good at, is being able to express what we're going through or what we're feeling. And especially for a veteran, I saw things that I'm never going to forget. And we just have to be able to continue sharing these resources and letting folks know there are folks out there who do want to help, who do want to help you physically, mentally. But we have to get those resources out to folks and let them know it's out there, because there are so many folks that don't know that they can go to these things. A lot of people on Fort Carson had told me they thought Mount Carmel was just for retirees. And I said, oh my goodness, no. You guys can go over there right now and get help. But it's because they don't know is what we're running into. And that's why we have to share it with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, with our community, the suicides are definitely the older crowd. You know, it's not the young Green Berets. And that's what, I mean, I go on base all the time and just tell these guys, because I also, and listeners know, if you guys listen more than once, I also help run the Special Forces Foundation. And like, I go out there and I go to team room, like, hey, this exists. This exists for you guys to use, and please use it. Like I said, if everyone said I'm not worth it, someone else deserves it more, then we wouldn't have anybody to give resources to. So that awareness is twofold. It's awareness to explain to the civilian population that doesn't know anything about this, that could potentially donate money and save lives. And then it's awareness to the actual service members and the families to say, hey, get out of the basement, get out of the bottle, come in here, get some help, be around people that are like-minded, that are dealing with the same stuff you're dealing with every single day.
I had a soldier tell me once that he didn't go to counseling because he said, it makes me look weak to my peers. And I said, it doesn't. No. It really doesn't. So please, if you're out there listening, it does not make you weak. It actually makes you very strong to seek help. It really does. So please reach out there and find those resources to help you.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, I tell the guys too, like they say, oh, it makes me look weak, or they're going to take my guns, or, you know, I'm going to lose my security clearance. I said, no, what's going to make all that happen is if you don't see counseling and you finally snap. You finally freak out. You finally do something wrong and the pot finally boils over. I did it for so long, I almost had a heart attack. I mean, my anxiety got so bad, I had bad EKG and almost threw me into a heart attack. I was seeking counseling at the time, but was I really dealing with a lot of my issues like I could have been? No. So I really had to deep dive because I basically almost killed myself. And so if you don't go to counseling, if you don't try to fix these problems, that's when you're going to get yourself into trouble and something bad's going to happen. So those comments drive me insane. Right. They really do. But
well, tell us some more inspirational stories. We've gotten a little somber here. You told us about the Vietnam veteran, but do you have any other, like, just people you've met? So many people, it sounds like, just being Miss Colorado USA. Tell us about just another inspirational person you met.
I do have one funny story from Bagram. So,
of course you do.
We all do. We all do.
So as a civilian over there, we worked 12 hours a day, every day, no weekends off, no holidays off. And when I would get off at 7 o'clock at night, I would usually go for a walk. And so I was in a Connex behind a garrison building. And if you went up and went to your left, that was where they had the gyms, the PX. But if I went to the right, that's where we called where the secret squirrels were in that area. Mm-hmm. So when I'd get off, it would be pitch dark. And I like to walk to the right. I like to be by myself. I really felt like God put me there, and I was never afraid except for this one time. And so I'm sitting there walking, and I forgot what it's called now, when the incoming's coming in and it catches it and you hear the noise.
The C-RAM?
The C-RAM.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all of a sudden I'm walking and I hear, and I was like, oh, crap. And I just hit the ground. And I was wearing all black. And I hit the ground. And then you hear incoming, and the C-RAM go off. I stood up and I was like, really? Really? Now you're going to go off?
Yeah, a little late.
I was like, are you kidding me? And that was the only time I was scared, because I was like, it didn't catch it. So when I finally got back to my room, I called my husband, and he said, it's going to happen 2 more times in a row, and it's probably going to be in the same area. And sure enough, for 2 more nights, they hit pretty close to that area. But that was the only time, because we didn't catch it. And it literally was pretty close to where I was. That was the only time I was scared over there.
I remember my first trip in 2007, probably about for the first 2 months. I was there for a year, and Fob Salerno was called Rocket City. We got rocketed almost every single day for a year straight. And for the first 2 months, it would go off, and I would run to the bunker, freak out and lose my mind. We had one, I think I was running on the treadmill in the gym, and the gym was a clamshell, and the whole clamshell, it landed so close, the whole clamshell went, and I was like, ah! But after like 2 months, I'm like, all right, here we go again. Just like start walking to the, like if this hits me, it's a prayer. Like,
do I stop showering?
Yeah.
Keep showering.
Yeah, after a while, you didn't even go out and go into the bunkers. You were like, oh, it's going off again. You stayed in your room. But
when I was SF, we'd go to the roof and try to find the poo site. We were like, they're coming in, and we're just like got the binoculars out trying to find point of origin.
Point of origin. Yeah.
And I'll share with you as well is I love dogs more than anything, and I have 3, but I had 3 before, and I have the same 3 breeds now. And I had a Great Pyrenees, 186-pound Great Pyrenees, wow. And my husband named him. His name was Apache.
That's cool. That's a good name.
And then we had a husky. Her name was Camo, and we had a Chow Chow, and his name was Major. Nice. And Apache was my best friend in life because Micah was gone all the time. And when I lost him, I said I would never get another dog again. Now I have the same 3 breeds again. I have another Great Pyrenees. He's not quite as big as an Apache. He's 176 pounds. Micah named him as well. His name's General. We have a husky. Her name is Captain. And then my Chow Chow, he's my little buddy. His name is Army.
Nice.
And the reason I tell you that is because I've been a GS employee for 33 years. If I truly did not love the Army and working with the military, I would have left a long time ago.
Right.
I truly love the military, and I truly love my branch, the Army.
Well, we are truly grateful for everything you do. We need more people out here that are like you, that are spreading the word and
thank you.
helping out and getting resources and get people help. And like I said, spreading awareness to the civilian population and to the soldiers, because there's a million resources out there. So the world definitely needs more people like you, Cathy.
Oh gosh, thank you. Yes, that's very kind of you. Like I said, I don't do the pageant for me. I do it so you guys aren't forgot about. And I have been blessed to be able to be in another pageant where they support what I do and they want to share about the military as well.
That's awesome. All right, so go through your
Plugs.
yeah, go through what you have coming up, and then how people can look you up and possibly go to the pageants.
I'm Mrs. Colorado USA 2024. I compete for Mrs. USA August 3rd in Omaha, Nebraska, and it's
My hometown.
It's the Mrs. USA Worldwide pageant. I'm very excited to be part of that. And you can look me up on social media, like I said, Facebook or Instagram, and it's Mrs. Colorado USA 2024 or Mrs. Colorado 2024. And you will see where I'm out in the community supporting our members. And also, if there was something that you would like me to come out and speak or be present for something that you have, I would feel honored. Please just reach out to me, and I'll leave my information here with you guys, and folks can reach out to me. And like I said, I work very well with Mount Carmel. I do a lot of events with them. Whatever I can do to help you guys out and support the community, let me know. But right now, the big thing is getting out there before the pageant and doing lots of events so people can see that I'm out there supporting you guys.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we're wrapping it up here.
Yeah, like Paul said, our motto on the show is "You're not alone," and you're just another great example of that. So we appreciate you
thank
coming
you.
on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Cathy.
Thank you. You guys have a blessed day.
Thank you
too.
too.